I didn't really understand how it worked. This doesn't cooperate. It's nice. I'm like, it looks nice. I have about math day. The lack of need for anything besides I make by the end of the day. I quit.
Okay, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was.
You ready to get going, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. No. Just wanna give us like a little. We all ready, guys? All right. Regular school committee meeting is hereby called to order. I keep looking at that clock and it says 11 o'clock, so I'm gonna just connect us. That we are starting our regular school committee meeting at 7:03 p.m. on May 2nd. This meeting is obviously taking place in person at 29 Highland Avenue. There is a Zoom participation permitted for anyone who may be listening at home. You can log on. If you go to the City of Salem calendar, you will see the links there. I'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. The Salem School Committee would like to hear from the public on issues that affect the school district and are within the scope of the committee's responsibilities. Spanish interpretation is available for anyone who needs it. I would entertain a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
Into approval.
Motion made by Mr. Cruz. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Manning. All those in favor? Ms. Manning, oh, all those in favor? Yeah, we can do this in person now. I keep thinking we have to get a roll call. Okay, all those opposed? The ayes have it. And I should just go ahead and call the order. I think the only person we're missing this evening is Mr. Fleming, just for the record to reflect that. I'd entertain a motion for approval of our consent agenda. Motion made by Ms. Manning, seconded by Ms. Campbell. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item is turning it over for public comment. If there are any public comment, anyone here or anyone submitted? No, not at this time. I will move on to our student showcase. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Great. You waded through. Okay, go right ahead. And if you can state your name and address for the record, just so we have it.
Sorry, my laptop. Good evening, Mayor Driscoll, Superintendent Reich, members of the school committee, and members of the Salem community. I'm honored to stand up here today, the first day of Teacher Appreciation Week, to to say thank you to our educators. Every single one of them deserves to be recognized for their service to our community and our kids. I'm proud to represent them as we fight for what our kids need. This has been the most challenging of any year in my 28-year career teaching. And I hear the same from my colleagues, regardless of the years of service in teaching, whether it's a first-year teacher, a fifth-year teacher, or a 30th-year teacher. However, while we're finishing up this second year of teaching through COVID, our kids have not recovered from their learning interruption yet. I don't like to call it a learning loss because that would negate all the work that our teachers and kids did virtually and in person. Yes, they're not where their peers were 2 years ago, but they'll get there. Our teachers will continue to do what they do best, which is meet every kid where they're at and help them move forward. However, to do that, we need funding and we need staffing. There's no way for us to move our students along and make up that interruption without the additional staff in our buildings. I appreciate all the work going into this year's budget. I do believe that for the most part, it puts the needs of our kids first. I'm also aware that our SOA money did not come through the way we anticipated and hoped for. I know that Mayor Driscoll, Superintendent Strike, and myself have reached out to both Senator Lovely and Representative Tucker to get more monies for Salem. And I've been told that they're working hard to make that happen. At this time, we don't know where that will lead, and we can only hope that they can fix this deficit in our funding. I urge you to reconsider any budget adjustments that impact staffing numbers. We need teachers to cover all our classes, and we need paraprofessionals to assist our neediest students. Some of our programs and classes are already understaffed. We cannot do our job without the appropriate assistance of other adults in our classrooms. In order to fix that learning interruption, we need our classes to be smaller in number. My largest class is currently 26 students, which is 2 under the maximum for an elementary school classroom. My smallest is 19. There's a huge difference in teaching those 2 classes, even though they're both the same grade level classes. Our teachers are human and they're exhausted. This week of appreciation is awesome. I know that there are celebrations going on in every school, and I know our community has reached out with items for teachers, free services, and it is appreciated by every teacher. But let's let the celebration continue by funding a budget that gives all our kids adequate staffing to help them grow and learn. I understand you all have a fiscal responsibility to the residents of Salem, and that you're being pulled in 9 different directions in regards to who or what to adjust in the budget. But let's not make it any adult who works directly with our kids. We can't afford that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Any other public comment before we move on the agenda? Okay, great. Seeing none, we will move forward with our student showcase. I think it's our early childhood center and via Zoom, presumably.
That's right.
All right. Are we turning it over to anybody in particular?
I think
Okay.
this is our first time doing this
Hybrid.
hybrid like this. So I'm going to turn it over to Miss Smith, who is the principal of our Early Childhood Center. A lot of exciting developments there this year, obviously with the expansion of pre-K. So I'm going to turn it over to Miss Smith, and you're going to be our first ever hybrid student showcase.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. I'm glad to be the guinea pig on this. We'll see how it goes. I do have a slide presentation. So if I share my screen, will you all see it? Is that how
Yes,
it
we
works?
will. Yeah, that'd be perfectly in.
Okay, awesome. So, so thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to come and present tonight. We're very excited about this. While we did not bring actual students with us live tonight due to the timing and the ages, most our students are 3 and 4 years old, so a little young to keep them up and presenting at this hour, but maybe we'll work on that for next year. We did, however, bring a presentation that has live videos and pictures that I think will make you feel like they are with us tonight. I did, however, bring with me 2 staff members from the ECC. I'm really excited to have our truly a real live human superhero instructional coach, Shauna Earps, with us, who is really been instrumental in all things pre-K this year. And also one of our amazing teachers, Lisa Hagan. Lisa teaches one of our intensive integrated preschool classrooms. So I'm glad to have both of them with us, and we're going to share in this presentation. The student showcase is going to, here, let me share my screen with you. Do you see this?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on, I'm in. There we go. No, I don't want to try that. Okay, here they are. So this student showcase is going to take you through a typical day at the Early Childhood Center, and will be highlighting activities from our current 3 Cheers for Pre-K unit. 3 Cheers for Pre-K is our brand new curriculum that we have implemented throughout this year. And this unit that we're going to talk to you about tonight is called Animals All Around. While it's about all animals, this presentation focuses on week 2 with the essential question, how do animals' feet help them? During this presentation, you're going to see examples of literacy, math, play, art, and one short little video clip on the letter V, which doesn't exactly have anything to do with animals. But we do encourage you to take note of how the theme Animals All Around is incorporated throughout all of the activities that are happening throughout the day. So we invite you to sit back, enjoy the presentation. Our hope is that you will see and hear not only how very, very special these students are, but really just how much they are learning this year. They are super proud of themselves and hope that you enjoy this showcase tonight. All right, Lisa.
Hi, everyone. So we start each day coming together for a morning meeting as a class community. Morning meeting is the time where all the students and staff in the classroom come together to begin their day for learning. They share experiences, we do songs, dance, we learn about the weather and calendar, and this is a video showing the kids singing the welcome song.
Everyone, hello in the morning, everyone. Welcome, let's have fun.
Okay, Shauna.
As mentioned, week 2 in All About Animals focuses on animals' feet and the essential question of how their feet help them. So each unit in 3 Cheers provides songs that connect back to the theme that the teachers can use. We project them. We're able to project them through the online platform so we can make them big and interactive on the screen. And we're also able to reinforce concepts of print and early literacy skills. This is a video of one of those songs, which is called All Kinds of Feet.
So recently I had the opportunity to sit down and chat with a few of our students to talk to them about what they know and what they've learned about animals, in particular, their feet and how they help them.
Webs. Webbed feet. You're learning about their feet. Annie, what's an example of a kind of feet that an animal might have? They might have paws. What's an example of another kind of feet? Claws. Yep. Camilla, what's an example of another kind of feet? Hooves. So if an animal has webbed feet, why do you think the animal might have webbed feet? How does that help the animal, Soleil? It helps the animal swim. And if an animal has claws, how does it help an animal? What does that help the animal do? Claws? What do you think claws help an animal do? To eat, right? Helps them hold their food. And hooves. Somebody said animals have hooves. What do hooves do?
Hooves do so they can climb on rocks.
Helps them climb. Good job. You know a lot about animals and their feet. Webs. Webbed feet. You're learning about their
Okay.
So each week we read 2 different books related to the theme. This week's book was Whose Feet Are These? You can see in Miss Randaz's class how they explore the vocabulary from the story using the word ball.
Whose feet are these? Look at the picture in the file. What are they? Hooves. Nicholas, can you find hooves in our vocabulary list? Where are hooves? Can you reach it? Yes, way up top. They're the same feet as the cover of our book. And what are they called again? Hooves. Good job. Whose feet are these? Look at the picture in the file.
Our next clip will show Mrs. Crimble leading a small group center with students learning about the letter V. So we have set a goal this year to focus on letter identification and letter sounds to boost our kiddos' kindergarten readiness skills. So in this clip, they're working on the name of the letter, identifying the name of the letter, the sound that the letter makes, and then different objects that start with that sound, which reinforces the letter sound relationship and also is developing vocabulary and oral language. And then in the photo on the left, this is Mrs. Arredondo leading a small group vocabulary lesson. We're very fortunate that the program comes with lots of materials that are very student friendly. So they're using the big book, The Party. So Leanne, can you start Susan's clip?
Yes, I can.
One is. Anyone know what? A vacuum. What's a vacuum? It's something that makes that noise and it's used to clean. Let's see. A vacuum cleaner. This is how you spell vacuum. Can you tell me what letter that is?
V.
V. This letter. One is.
Oops.
These are some examples of student work. Oh, let me just slide. After reading the story, The Five Little Ducks, the students drew, wrote, and talked about where their duck went when it didn't come back when its mother called them. The middle picture shows an example of some of our earliest writing. You can see that there's some drawing there. There's some representation of some letters in there to express their ideas by one of our 3-year-old students. And then the clips that Leanna are going to show are the students talking about where their ducks went by using their drawings and their writing.
Jackson, can you tell your friends what's happening in your picture?
The bunny teach how to Strawberry.
Oh, wow, the bunny is teaching the duck how to nibble a strawberry. What is nibbling? Can you show me? How do you nibble? Thing that your duck is doing?
My duck is going to the sunset. Pink, blue, orange.
Jackson, can you tell your friend duck is doing?
So in the first video, you're gonna see a whole group lesson from Math Circle that compares the weight of 2 toy animals. The other images are from small groups and center time where students are counting and subtracting ducks using the song and story 5 Little Ducks. They're also learning to count with one-to-one correspondence using animals in an ice cube tray. Let's watch the video.
Or lighter, do you think? No, try again. Yeah, put them in easy, put them in down. There you go. Look, is he up or down?
Down.
So is he heavy or light right now?
Heavier. Heavier.
Okay, let's see. We're gonna put the donkey in. Apollo's gonna put the donkey in. Apollo, do you think it's gonna be heavier or lighter than the lion?
Lighter than light.
So you think that this is gonna stay up?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, try it. Were you right? Or lighter, do you think? No.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Quack, 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 quack.
Only the 3 ducks what came waddling.
Throughout the week, the students take part in theme-related art activities. This is just an example of student work where a student was using toy frogs and toy ducks to paint with their webbed feet.
We are working really hard to integrate the themes into our play centers throughout the classroom. This teacher turned her dramatic play area into a veterinarian's office. So while they're playing in this area, they are able to pretend to be taking care of stuffed animals, giving them shots and cleaning them, and looking into microscopes to pretend to be, looking at different things that you would look at if you were a veterinarian. So you can see those pictures here in these 3 pictures. In these next 3 videos, you're going to hear from students talking about what animal they would be if they could be any animal, and they'll tell you why they would like to be that animal.
Hi, Dylan.
Hi.
If you could be any animal, what would you be?
An elephant.
An elephant? Why would you be an elephant?
Because perfect. Hi.
Kelsey, if you could be any animal, what would you be?
A duck.
A duck? Why would you be a duck?
Because your mommy comes.
Because the mommy comes, like in 5 Little Ducks. What else can a duck do?
Quack, quack. Swim.
Emma, can you tell me about an animal that you're learning about this week?
Duck.
Excellent, a duck. What kind of feet does a duck have?
Red.
Okay.
Hi.
Emma, can you tell me about an animal that you're learning about this week? Excellent, a duck. What kind of feet does a duck have?
Sorry about that. Seems to be having a hard time switching. Okay, that concludes our student showcase for tonight. Students have been working really hard this year, and teachers as well, as I said, to implement our new curriculum and to bring it to students and grow our students and our center better than ever. It really is a wonderful place to be. The Salem Early Childhood Center, students and staff, we're all there at all times working to be safe, to be kind, and to be ready to learn. We would love to have any of you come visit. Students love to have company, so let us know if you want to stop by for a visit. And at this point, I would invite questions and comments.
Great, thank you, Leanne, for that presentation, giving us a chance to have a window into the world at our Early Childhood Center. I wish the kids could be with us in person, but understand it's a little bit late for them. The ducks may not quack as much at 7 o'clock, but really grateful for the work going on and the expansion of pre-K. Questions and comments from committee members, if there are any? Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, Mayor Driscoll. And just want to echo your sentiments, expressing my thanks for the showcase. Do wish the little ones could join us, but understanding competing with dinner time and bedtime, pretty difficult. Just wanted to express my praise for the presentation this evening. Thought it was very comprehensive and gave some insights. Ms. Smith, I'm going to be taking you up on your offer to come and visit and to see firsthand some of the work you're doing as I'm exploring pre-K options with my family. And just wanted to give a special shout out to Ms. Hagan, who's actually my high school classmate. Great to see you, Ms. Hagan, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Mr. Cruz. Other comments or questions from committee members? Ms. Cornell?
I just want to say how wonderful it is to sort of see, you using the essential questions with the littlest kids. My 6th grader comes home and uses that language. And so Mrs. Earp, you should be proud of that. She's doing it. You can just see how important it is to start with our littlest kids because they're introduced to the language of learning. And it was really great to see that.
It really is exciting. A quick story. We had a student start new last week, and he had just turned 3. His birthday was, I think, the day that he started. And he came in. It was so exciting to just watch it from the very, very start and know that he was going to be able to carry what he's learning now all the way through to high school.
Terrific. Well, thank you for joining us. If there are no other questions or comments, I'm going to move us along in the agenda. We appreciate the work that you're doing every single day, you and the team. And it's of great service to our community to have opportunities for our youngest residents to get such a high quality experience. And we're grateful for the investments we're making and for the time and attention that all of you are putting in to assure that. So thank you.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Okay, I'm going to keep us moving. Bye, guys. Feel free to stay along, but you also can leave. It's bath time, bedtime, and dinner time for many of us. So I will move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to the ECC team for the presentation here. We'd love to see the young students here, but obviously the time and, we much prefer they get a good night's sleep. I do just want to mention 2 things about the ECC. One is we are moving the school to a full day for more students next year. We want to commit resources so that we allow the school more students to have a 5-day-a-week experience there. There was a half day on Fridays, and we're bringing specialists into the rotation next year as part of our expansion of early childhood across Salem. While we might not be adding more classrooms necessarily, what we are is offering more full day options for families, and we are exploring the wraparound, the after school programming as well. So just want to note that. And the second thing is, the mayor and I worked on getting something on the calendar to talk about sustainability for funding for early childhood. We want to bring some of our elected officials as well as some of the state the folks from the EEC and from DESE to talk about the path forward for sustainability and funding, because again, this is something that will drop off in 2 years with the end of ESSER funding, the early childhood experience, which we think is so vital and has been so important. And we thank the team that just presented and to Ms. Smith for taking on the assignment of leading the ECC through this really exciting transition. To Ms. Earps, who's the coach, who's fantastic. And thank you to Ms. Hagan as well. I mean, we have a lot of outstanding educators there. On that note, I do want to just acknowledge again, as Ms. Berman did, that it is, we call it Staff Appreciation Week here in the Salem Public Schools. Hard to divorce. I think everybody who works in our schools are educators, and yesterday was technically National Principals Day, and so we do acknowledge our 11 amazing school leaders. But this week we really celebrate all our staff, and as you may have seen, and thanks to Liz Pulley-Wettengale, we have put together a plethora of perks and incentives, and for it's a wish we could do more, wish we could buy new cars and swimming pools and homes for our staff. They're incredibly deserving. I think it's just a small token of how much we do appreciate the work we do. I do want to thank the businesses in Salem who have stepped up to recognize our teachers. But that being said, I can't echo enough what Ms. Berman said. It's amazing that 2 years ago we were, teachers were being lauded and, as essential employees. It's amazing how quickly people forget. And I don't mean people in Salem, I mean like nationally. This has been the hardest year I've ever seen in education, and our educators are working harder than they've ever been before. And the narrative has quickly changed, around the country that, teachers are seen as dispensable, I think, and the truth is, I think we're learning quickly as people shift out of the profession just how important they are. And the job of a teacher is much more than just teaching the lessons. Today more than ever, coming back from a pandemic, we have teachers that are experts at mediating conflict, put band-aids on kids, they wipe tears from students, they are cheerleaders, they go to events outside of school, they're constantly, when I was a teacher, there was no email back and forth. I mean, the amount of communication and expectation that we put on staff beyond just what people associate as the traditional role of an educator. I really wish anybody could follow, all of us should follow an educator for the day to see just how much time, while everybody's sitting in their home, not everybody, but a lot of people are sitting at home on their couch doing their laundry during the day. Our educators barely have a chance to go to the bathroom, right? And so it's just something we have to continue to highlight how important they are and how unsung they are in the work that we do every day. So I just think this is, a small token of appreciation, and thank you to the many, many people, Liz, right? We had like 70 plus people who sent stories about their educators making, what's that? 90 plus, right? Those stories mean a lot to educators. And we're going to continue to feature those stories. We'll be sending everybody notes that were received about them because I think those are worth their weight in gold for people as well. So just cannot highlight enough the impact that our staff has made. And I urge everybody who's watching, please just send a quick note. Send a quick note to your third grade teacher or your fifth grade teacher, because those are the things that sustain people through these difficult times. So, happy Staff Appreciation Week. On that note, I do want to shift to a less scintillating topic, but is the budget. And I just a couple notes. We're not going to spend a lot of time tonight. I know the mayor may want to add a few things as well. That we did postpone the budget hearing because we wanted to spend some time revising the budget in light of information that we had received both at the state and local level in terms of funding. And this is, I just point out that I've worked in a lot of other districts. This is not unusual. Through the budget process, you get new information that cause you to have to shift. And I feel like we're in a good place. we don't have details we can share quite yet. We're going to be working with the finance subcommittee, but we're examining the different possibilities so we can move forward with a budget that preserves a lot of what we're trying to do, but also remains fiscally responsible. And we have a responsibility to taxpayers and to the city of Salem to do just that. And so I think without getting into any of the details, we have some work to do over the next couple of weeks. I think we can land in a place that doesn't compromise important experiences for young people in our city. And we're working very closely with our with city finance team and our team and also our state delegation amongst them. And we think they're working hard for us around this issue of the Student Opportunity Act. And we're hopeful something can be resolved this year. We certainly need something resolved in the future. And I did want to just share a timeline with the committee of what we were thinking about with future budget hearing, just so people had could see that. So give me 1 second as I share this. So hope people can see here. Let me just. Okay, so just the thought here is we do have a finance subcommittee meeting at 5:15, led by on the 9th, which is a week from tonight. That's to go over some of our thinking and revisions related to the budget with members of the subcommittee. And then on May 16th, which is our next regularly scheduled school committee meeting, we present a revised budget presentation. I mean, we're not going to do the whole, don't worry, we're not going to do 100 slides. Everybody take a deep breath, but we'll share adjustments that are made to the budget, whatever they are. We're hoping to do that at 6 p.m. These times are tentative with school committee members, because I think you're seeing some of these times for the first time. And then we stop the presentation and we open a budget hearing later in the evening, that evening. And then during the week of May 23rd, we'd have a final vote on the budget. We'd have to find a time that would work with everybody's schedule, because the 23rd that Monday isn't a regularly scheduled school committee meeting. I'm putting this out here as a proposal, and I would love any thoughts that committee members have of the path forward. I believe there's a deadline of May 26th to get an approved budget to the city. Mayor and Mary Manning, I think that's one of the things we had learned through this process. And so I'll turn it over to you, Mayor, see if you want to add anything or folks had any questions about these.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm
forward.
happy to just pick up on your comments regarding the trying to get the budget to a place that we can all live with. I think there's a lot of good work going in to try and tighten belts and sharpen pencils and all the analogies that talk about ways that we can make sure our schools are being supported while also being mindful of the affordability challenges we have, given the context that the Chapter 70 dollars are just so crushingly low. We continue to really invest time and attention in trying to get that addressed, not only for this year. We're hopeful that in working with both Representative Tucker and Senator Lovely, we can find a fix for this particular fiscal year 23 that's coming up. But I think more importantly, we really have to understand why we're being so disproportionately treated as a gateway city with respect to funding Chapter 70 vis-a-vis just the presentation we had earlier today around early childhood. The whole idea is to make the expansion of that program, which is so necessary, sustainable and viable. If we're getting $123,000 or of that ilk in new Chapter 70 aid, that becomes very, very challenging. So we have to unpack it not only for fiscal year 23, but frankly, for the remainder, so that we can be reaping the benefits that everyone anticipated we would as a district that qualifies as a gateway city and has significant need. The current contribution from the state is not recognizing that. So work to do on that front. Very hopeful that we can land in a place that makes sense for this year and sort of into the vein of hoping for the best, but planning for the worst, and then trying to make sure we're thinking about both short and long-term measures with respect to Chapter 70. So because we didn't schedule the budget hearing today, because we're still, I think, very much trying to better understand what resources we're going to have and how best to apply them. We'd be looking at changing some things up for our next meetings this month, trying to find a date. I don't think we need to find the date today. We can sort of circulate what makes sense during that week, double check what the deadlines are in terms of meeting but are hoping at our meeting on the 16th that we can schedule both a revised budget presentation and a budget hearing. Does that date, I guess we can do the follow-up, but if folks have any comments or questions regarding sort of either the approach or want to flag anything with respect to calendars, not to do all the housekeeping at the meeting, but if there's challenges with this concept, that would be good to know. Mr. Cruz.
I think that these dates work on my end. Process-wise, I think what I'd just love to better understand is with respect to the timeline in which the budget would be finalized and released prior to the presentation. Dr. Wright, could you just give us some insights as to when you think that would be publicly available? Just thinking about the public having the budget hearing the same day we're doing the presentation and how much time we'd be giving folks to kind of digest the written budget prior to the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how many revisions need to be made. I think it's a question. I think there has to be released, don't quote me on this, but a written version 48 hours before the budget hearing by law, that it have to be available, any changes to the budget. I would hope that, after our meeting May 9th, we can make those changes and quickly post any revisions. I don't want to speak for Mary Manning, who's the chair. That's the goal. That would be right after that, we could post any revisions made to the budget for people to review.
And the presentation itself, would that be something that would be in our packet for that evening? Or would that be something that you plan on releasing separately after the meeting?
I think I'll try to release it as soon. I mean, I think it's dependent on how many changes there are.
Mhm.
I don't think we're going to do all the whole new set of slides, but just demonstrate where the changes are. So I think we could certainly put it out before the 16th so that people would have a chance to look at where those changes are ahead of that meeting. Mary, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think that? Yeah.
Thank you.
Other thoughts, comments, suggestions, Ms. Campbell?
Sure. I have, for the finance subcommittee meeting, I have, or finance subcommittee period, I have a meeting on the 9th and the 13th. Is that 13th still intended to be a working session? Because if so, to Dr. Dreck's point about the number of changes that might be made at the meeting on the 13th, that would not be enough time because that one's been changed.
That's what we were tentatively scheduled to meet with you originally.
Okay.
And when I spoke with Jen the other day, I didn't cancel it just to make sure this all was going to take place. But I think if we're all in agreement that this is the plan, I think we can probably cancel the 13th.
Great.
Yeah, can I interject?
Please go ahead.
I would just hope that by the 9th, we could come to a good place because we have to do all the
Right.
legwork between the 9th and 16th. So
Same, that was my concern with the 13th versus the 6th, and then immediately on the 15th. And then is the idea that the 16th, the budget hearing would take the place of the regular meeting, or are we expected to start a budget hearing at 7:30 and then hold a meeting after? I just don't want to shortchange the budget hearing itself.
no, again, this is what I was thinking. This is certainly the school committee's budget hearing. I was thinking we'd stop the school committee meeting. You have to close this regular school committee meeting ahead
Right.
and then open a budget hearing, and the rest of the night, well, I guess we could be in a budget hearing till midnight. I hope not, but I mean, from 7:30 on would be the budget
So
hearing.
we have a
Yeah.
budget presentation starting at 6. We
That's
begin our regular meeting at 7.
No, the regular meeting is the budget
Okay, that's
presentation.
what I was trying to.
Sorry
say.
about that. Yeah.
Yep.
That would take the place of the regular meeting, and then that would end, and then you have to open and post separately for a budget hearing at 7:30.
I just didn't want to try and cram an entire, because if it had been held tonight, we would have had a 6 p.m. and that
That's
budget hearing
correct.
and then a regular
That's
meeting. And I
correct.
wanted to be sure we didn't have things on the agenda already planned for on that 23rd, 16th.
Yeah, the thought was it's usually in reverse, but because we wanted people to have time to see the presentation. And I guess to Manny, your question, hopefully we can even get the presentation out earlier. People have chance to digest it, listen to the presentation, and then they can comment as part of the hearing. They'd also have an opportunity on that final meeting on the week of the 23rd in public comment to also comment on the budget before there's a final vote on the SY23 budget.
And then this is maybe my own personal issue. 6 p.m. is going to be a little tight for me.
Okay.
So if there is not going to be an earlier meeting and you don't think it's going to take the full hour and a half, to the presentation, then moving it back would be better for me, but we can take that.
Yeah,
off.
well, let's,
Yeah,
that,
that's fine. I just wanted to.
please let me know or let us know.
And then I think from my point of view, a lot of this is going to come down to what we're able to discuss on the 9th. I don't have additional information at this time, or like an alternate to what was proposed. So I think some of my comments still stand in regards to having to find a way to fund our contractual obligations, which are, I think, when I got the latest updates, they're a little over $1 million higher than our historical average has been. And so I just really want to be conscious of that. It's like at 2 point, I don't have the exact number in front of me. My iPad will not connect to Wi-Fi, but it was at 2.3 million, and we've sort of been in the 1.1, 1.2 ballpark. So I think we just, again, really have to be conscious of that. It is Teacher Appreciation Week, so I'd like to really emphasize how excited I am to be able to provide a contract that really significantly increases what our teachers are being paid, but it does just mean that we have to be really conscious of that impact in this exact moment, in that our contractual obligations are significantly higher than what they are. And yes, we do have an obligation to taxpayers of Salem, but even our very own budget policy says first and foremost, our obligation is to the kids of Salem first, and that, you know, everything else comes secondary. So I just really do want to be conscious of that. Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing what we discuss on the 9th and what we have in front of us, but that's my opinion on it at the moment.
Any other questions or comments from committee members?
Yeah.
Ms. Fanning?
A couple, as far as the hearing being after the meeting, I just want to point out that I'm not anticipating, and I don't know if you could answer this tonight, Dr. Strike, but I'm not anticipating that any new item would be added to the budget at this point. So what we're doing is looking at the budget that folks already received and have had time to think about. And so then we're more or less trying to get the best that we can out of all the items presented. So we're not going to give anything new at the 7 o'clock meeting when you give your remarks that people haven't had a chance because the budget's been out there. It may be hoping that we can fund as much as we can out of what was in the packet, but it isn't as though we're springing it brand new on everybody at 7 o'clock and then have a hearing at 7:30 or whatever. Folks will have had that whole time, quite some time, considerable time now to think about the original presentation.
Yeah, do you want me to respond to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say, it's difficult to say at this moment that I hope that's the case, that there won't be a lot of changes. I mean, unless you also direct me to add new things to I can't imagine that that's what's going to be happening at Monday's meeting, but
Go in the right direction.
yeah.
Right.
So, but I'm hopeful we can find ways to maintain a lot of what we've done and also get closer to a number that's sustainable for the city and the community. So.
And then my other, I just think along with that. I'm not sure if I caught it that you were saying the regular meeting will still start at 7. Is that correct? Did you
No.
move it?
The regular meeting would be the first meeting.
Yeah.
The budget presentation would be, and it may not be 6 p.m. It may be later based on what we heard here, but that would be, we'd start our regular meeting first early.
Right.
Stop that
So, all
meeting.
right, so that early part is the part because
Yep.
we already had a cow schedule 5 to 6:30. With a couple of topics on there that were
Right.
really
We'll do the housekeeping. We'll round up.
All right,
If we want to
okay.
use that date, I think it's
No,
a
I
good
don't- I
point.
don't- I thought
Maybe
you
it's
wanted-
6:30,
but
yeah.
I'm fine.
The goal is to try and figure out on the 16th how to have both the
Yeah.
revised budget presentation and budget hearing, and
Okay, that's fine.
see how we can make the housekeeping work. I'm gonna call Mr. Cruz and then back to Ms. Campbell.
I'll be brief here. The only other flag that I would make is the week of the 23rd. The Senate will likely be taking up budget in that week.
Mhm.
We were fortunate with the House process that they took up the education related amendments that first evening. So we did get an inkling of what would happen.
Yeah.
Not the answer we wanted, but
Yeah, precisely. Not the answer we wanted. So it's entirely possible the Senate could take a similar approach, or they may not take up education that first day. So we may not have an answer with respect to the, at least from the delegation, what's going on with any shifts in the SOA dollars. So just something that I would put out there to folks. I don't think we can push it back any further, but we probably wouldn't have some type of resolution. So I don't know process wise That means as we submit our budget to the city council, perhaps they would get some additional SOA dollars earmarked out or something, but I'm not quite sure what we do for process, but just putting that out there for folks as well.
Ms. Campbell?
I just wanted to respond to Ms. Anning's point about people already having had the opportunity to see the budget and just pointing out that it's actually the opposite. I feel like if we were adding additional things, then people might not necessarily need additional time to ponder. But it's the change or deletion of things that that is what makes them need the additional time to really think about it. So that's what makes it all the more important, because they've had the chance to see it. That I think if there are changes or shifts or deletions, that's what's going to make people want to have additional questions.
Ms. Manning?
Yeah, and I understand that. I agree with that, but I was just pointing out that, I mean, there are going to be hard decisions to be made probably at that point, and that we might have made ahead of time or announcing that evening. But I was only pointing out that it wouldn't be entirely new, like out of the blue topics for people to think, whoa, I haven't even heard about that one. But basically, we will be still discussing issues we've already put on the table. And yeah, then it's still a decision of something being eliminated perhaps or whatever, but nothing new that wasn't just at least out there. That's all I'm saying. I agree with your point.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a game plan. If I'm hearing from everyone correctly, we'll focus on the finance subcommittee on the 9th, where superintendent, you'll be able, by then, we're hoping we've got more ability to see where we're going to land budgetary wise. Everyone's trying to sharpen pencils and find resources that we need. And then on the 16th, the goal would be to have a more formal budget presentation to the full committee and have the public hearing as well. We'll get the times right. We'll try and right size the times on that, with the goal of finding a date on the 23rd or the week of the 23rd that works on everyone's calendar, so we can get together to actually vote on the budget ahead of the submission to the city council and us putting the budget to bed there as well. Okay, I'll keep us moving on the agenda. Anything else from you, Dr. Reich?
Yeah, we have a brief presentation on summer programming. We're happy that Deputy Superintendent Kate Carboni is here, who's leading our planning for summer programming. We're excited that we're going to be offering, similar type and number of programs as we did last year. We got a lot of good feedback from those programs, and wanted to be sure that Kate had an opportunity to share those with you as families are starting to sign, our schools are starting to sign up students for those programs. So I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. My first in-person meeting feels a little surreal, but happy to be here with all of you and have this opportunity to talk about our summer program planning. I did want to put in, okay, now let's see how my skills are. Okay, there we go.
Kate, can you pull this a little closer to you just so that we can make sure folks at home are hearing us?
So it's a little small. I'm grateful the public can see that, but I did provide a copy of the presentation, although this slide is not in there. I wanted to put in a plug about our April vacation academies that we ran before I talked about summer programs. So we had ran 3 April vacation academies, one at the elementary level, one at middle school, and one at the high school level. Our grade 3 to 5 was the STEAM Academy, and our target attendance for that was 80. We had 76 students attend that program, which was a 4-day program. It ran Tuesday through Friday, and it was really wonderful. The students learned about light waves and how the human eyes see color. They learned how a prism can bend light waves. They created their own watercolors and geometric paintings, using watercolors to create geometric paintings, and created tessellations, arranging shapes and tangrams into unique repeating patterns. So I had an opportunity to visit all 3 programs, and it was really great to see the students there. We also provided tutoring during that program in both literacy and math through our partner Catapult Learning. So that was really wonderful as well. It was ran from 8:30 to 11:30. Students had a snack and a grab and go lunch. We provided transportation and so forth. So it was really wonderful. Our middle school was a math acceleration camp, and we had 43 students attend that, with 23 that had perfect attendance, and we were able to give them gift cards for that perfect attendance. And this was staffed with an incredible team and was a tremendous success. The students participated in a number of high energy and engaging activities. They had the opportunity to have music. I happened upon the music class, and that was really exciting. They had physical education too. Excuse me. And as I mentioned, excuse me, earlier, they also had access to small group tutoring that was tailored to their needs. And that was held here at Collins Middle School. And then we also had a freshman and senior vacation academy that was held at the community office over at the Saltonstall auditorium. We had an average daily attendance of 47 kids. It was more kind of like drop in. We had 76 unique students attend that. I went on the Friday, which was the last day, and there was a good group of kids there, working with teachers on catching up on work. I saw a group of kids who had just gone out for a run. They were catching up on some of their PE credentials. So I think the high school team did a really wonderful job recruiting kids and getting them in there and really focusing on two groups of kids. Our kids in ninth grade who might be a little off track, to try to get them on track before the year ends. And then of course our seniors, and wanting them to get across the stage. So it was really kind of a informal, had a really good casual feel, but the kids were very purposeful, and it was a wonderful opportunity. So just wanted to update you on that. So now let's see, I can do this again. Oh, we'll bring you. Okay, next slide, please.
Okay.
Okay, so we are in the depths or throes of planning for our summer programs. And I just wanted to start with the design principles that we are working with our program coordinators as they develop their programs for the coming summer. And we're acutely aware that the impact and the effects of the pandemic continue to be an influence on the growth and development of our students. So we really want to be purposeful and thoughtful in our planning. So social emotional learning and support is really a priority for us. We know that summer is a perfect opportunity and time for kids to practice social and emotional skills in a safe and supportive environment. So really focusing on opportunities for kids to develop relationship building, decision-making, self-control, and awareness. So that is a priority for us. We also want to use this as an opportunity to accelerate learning. So as Ms. Berman had talked about earlier, we don't really want to talk about learning loss, but rather what are our opportunities to really attend to students' academic needs and accelerate learning through the project-based curriculum that we offer in the summer. So being really thoughtful about the standards that we're focusing on, using data to draw us to those places. And then we are also partnering with Catapult Learning to integrate small group tutoring that will continue from the school year into most of our programs. So math and ELA, and that is really personalized to students' particular needs. We of course want to have lots of opportunities for fun and to enjoy the sunshine and the beautiful community that we live in, and the shore, and so forth. So we'll have field trips and use our beautiful spaces, outdoor spaces in our schools, the fields, and the outdoor classrooms for play-based learning activities, provide students with lots of choice, both for structured and unstructured engagement with their peers. We are fortunate to be partnering with many community partners across Salem who bring vast experience and resources to the table to support enrichment. So throughout our programs are lots of opportunities for enrichment within the camp activities. And then we are also aware that the summer provides a bridge, an important bridge for students to the regular academic year. And so we are aware of that and trying to leverage our time together with that for that purpose. Next slide, please. So in Salem, I think all members of the committee are aware that we're very fortunate to have a robust student support structure at each school. So we're leveraging our City Connects coordinators, our family engagement facilitators, and our guidance counselors at the high school level to refer students to programs that are best matched to their needs. So to date, we have sent out a parent square to all families in the district to let them know that programs are under, development, and that if they are interested in accessing a summer program for their child, that we directed them to connect with the school City Connects coordinator, and we put all their information on that communication. That same notice was included in last week's superintendent newsletter that went out, and not only will City Connects coordinators and guidance counselors assist families in matching to a Salem public school program, but they are also very knowledgeable about programs that are happening within the community and surrounding area, and will work with families to guide them to a program that best meets their students' interests and need. In keeping with our district's equity statement, we are prioritizing access to our programs for students who are most in need based on economic status and other indicators such as academic gaps and or documented behavioral or social emotional needs. So in keeping with that statement, that we allocate resources so that those who need the most get the most. Next slide, please. So our Salem programs will run, with few exceptions, for 5 weeks in the summer. So starting the day after 4th of July, the 5th of July, and running through August 5th. And it varies, start times and end times vary. We have to manage that with transportation. We can't have them all running at the same time. So we're working on that. But it's just that's sort of the range of time with different start and end times. And some of our programs are more days than others. It varies. Thank you. So this slide outlines the district run programs at the elementary level that we will be running. So I'm not an expert on each program, but I can give a few highlights. As I said earlier, we're fortunate to have amazing community partners who are working with us to design programs to meet the unique needs of our students. So YMCA, as you know, is really a steadfast and tried and true partner. And they lead our largest summer program that we call the Summer Academy. And that runs from 8 to 4 and is a full week program. Our curriculum and instruction office plans the morning hours and the sort of the academic and project-based learning pieces. And the curriculum and instruction office has partnered with Salem Sound Coast Watch to write the curriculum. So campers will explore environmental issues within the Salem Sound watershed to better understand ecology, and they're going to be integrating theater and art strands into that curriculum. We have special education students integrated across all of our programs, and our special ed department also runs a specialized summer camp for youngsters who IEPs call for this level of support. And I have to say, our special education staff does an amazing job each summer planning and delivering extended year services. And I do always love visiting that program to see our students engaged in learning. We're excited to be partnering with the Campfire of North Shore for our multilingual learner program. So in the afternoon, students will, after the program that is the ML program is going to take place at Carleton this year, they will go to the Campfire site in the afternoon for enrichment and different activities, one of which I know includes swimming, and they love that. So that's a real highlight for them. We are experimenting with a different type of program this year. It's designed for students and families who are not looking for a full program, or camp, but would like to access something small that includes some tutoring. So we are running just a tutoring program that will also include some social emotional learning activities. And so we're planning to run that Tuesday through Friday, 9:30 to 11:30. For 4 weeks, and families can choose. We were offering lots of opportunities. You can go Tuesday and Wednesday, or Thursday and Friday, or you could go all 4 days. So lots of different choices there. Each day will include 2 45-minute tutoring sessions, one in literacy and one in math. And then the other time is used for snack, play, and a social emotional learning activity. And then kids go home, and we'll be able to offer transportation for that as well, because our bigger programs are on the ends, and then they can do a mini run in between. So we'll see how that goes, and what you'll see that we're running that not only at the elementary level, but at middle school as well, which is the cue for the next slide. So we'll be offering that same tutoring program. We also run the specialized programming for students at the middle level who are on IEPs who are receive specialized services in the summer. A key partner at the middle level is Elite for Education, who runs our Expanding Horizons program. This is a 5-week summer program for middle school students, and that offers collaborative project-based experiences. And so in the morning, they like the Y program, it's more like skills development and the project-based piece. And then in the afternoon are creative and physical kind of enrichment activities. Onto the high school. And so we also have the specialized special education program at the middle school level 2. In addition, we are co-sponsoring the summer work program, which is a collaborative effort between LEAP, North Shore Mass Higher, and the Salem Public Schools to support high school students with high quality project-based learning, career exploration, and career readiness skill development. The students are paid to attend the program, and so that's their job. And then LEAP develops the curriculum, if you will, that is really about exploring career exploration, career readiness, and each student receives a one-on-one career mentor from the community, which is really cool and important. So we have 60 seats available for this program. Last year, we ran a separate 9th grade transition program, and it caused the 9th graders to have to choose between one or the other programs. So this year, those 2 programs have been collapsed and are integrated. LEAP ran both of them last year. And so we think that will be more efficient and wrapping in the 9th grade transition curriculum into that program. So that's working well. And I forgot to mention one thing at the middle school level. Last year, we ran a CTE program for rising 7th and 8th graders, which allowed them to explore different shops in the CTE wing of the high school, stimulate interest in CTE and really create a pipeline. And while we didn't see that on the middle school, it's still under discussion and development, but we are aspiring to put something like that together. And I can certainly provide you with an update at a later date as that gets formalized. And so the last slide is just around planning. It's when we get together, there's like 40 of us on the Zoom, which, we have all our operational folks, transportation, food service, buildings and grounds, everybody together to really hash out the spaces in the schools, making sure that our teachers and students feel welcomed in the summer and that cleaning is happening, in other places where they're not, so that they're able to have their programs and that food is there and meeting their needs with transportation and so forth. So I'm pleased to say that program planning is well underway. And we are still in the process of staffing different programs, and the program leads do that. And, you know, like the Y takes care of it for their program and so forth. It's looking a little better than last year. Last year, we had a hard time, as you will recall, recruiting. Our educators were exhausted and really needed the summer off. And so we weren't really able to enroll as many students as we wanted because we just didn't have the bandwidth to do that. It's looking, we're in better shape, but I don't have final figures on that yet. But I think we all are hopeful, those of us who are planning. And as I said, operations is underway as well. So that feels like we're right on time and in good space. And then the last slide is just a pitch to families who are maybe listening or that you may know. Please refer them to their City Connects coordinators at the K-8 level and guidance counselors at the high school level to assist in the registration process.
Great.
That's what I have for you.
Quite the roundup. That box makes it look very easy and colorful, as if there wasn't a lot of energy and attention behind it, which we know is not the case. Really want to thank you and the team for the amount of thought going into trying to make sure we have a really high quality summer experience for our students, and utilizing the space that we have with the people that we have, and putting all those details together takes a lot of work, and our partnerships. Questions or comments for Assistant Superintendent Carboni? Ms. Campbell?
Thank you. This looks really exciting. And actually one of my questions was how hard has it been to recruit educators? I'm thrilled to hear that it's been a little bit easier. I just had one quick question and a comment. First, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit, I think it's brilliant to leverage the community partners, because I think so often we as districts try to take on so much when there's already people who are connected with families who already have access to like the types of enrichment programs, because that's their entire role and purpose. So I think it's really smart. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about sort of the delineation between the partnerships, like are they, like what are they owning versus what we're owning, and how that partnership has worked so far?
It depends, you know, program by program. Like for the Y, we're planning sort of the academic, you know, piece in the morning, and their expertise is in the enrichment and so forth. So the games and the other physical activities in the afternoon, they manage the whole program. Our teachers staff it. And so, you know, when talking to Charity, she has like her go-to, like there's a lot of same teachers, and other staff are paraprofessionals, have been teachers and staff in that program year after year. So she, you know, but there's always more recruiting that needs to happen. So that's kind of how that program works. Leap for Education is very similar to, they've take a little more ownership for the content development around the curriculum. So like at the high school work study program, that will be uniquely, you know, their content in collaboration with the high school, but they're doing the heavy lift with that program development. Our ELSA program, which is our program for our multilingual learners at the earlier grades, that's more homegrown, and partners kind of, you know, provide some of the support within that program, but that is really run. We hire a program coordinator from our staff. It was Mary Cruz Holmes last year, and so we take more ownership for that. So it really varies across programs. The new tutoring program that we're aiming to offer is in partnership with Catapult Learning, and they're kind of taking the heavy lift with our coordination and support with design. I asked Shauna Earps actually to take the lead on that program. So it really varies program to program.
That's great. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It just really does show the values that we have in our community partners and how we can
100%.
leverage like what they're bringing to it, so that we can prioritize when we use our educators. We can be strategic about what we're asking them to do so that they can focus on what they're really great at, which is like just delivering a top-notch experience for our kids rather than managing so many. I've worked in different summer programs, and I know that sometimes you're like, get to do your thing and really enjoy it, and then sometimes you're handling so many logistical components. So it's really great.
Right, we try to like neutralize some of the logistical things from our teachers. And I will say too, that we are very thoughtful, and I fully support and back that we provide our teachers with planning time. So they just don't go into the summer and it's like just the time that they're physically at the program, that they actually get some planning time in advance of the program, and then during the program too. We feel that that is really critical and important, and we of course include that in the compensation.
That's great. That's really great to hear. And then my last one is really just a comment on the career mentor piece. I served in that before, and I believe they might still be looking for a career mentor. So if people are looking at home, I really enjoyed it. It was a great experience. It was like a limited, like half an hour lunch, like meeting where it was on Zoom. That I don't know if they're still doing it on Zoom, but it was just a really nice opportunity. So if you work in a field for people at home, I don't know where to look now that we're not. It was a really great opportunity, and I really enjoyed it. So I would encourage people to reach out to Leap to see if they're still looking for people, if they have any capacity to take that on.
Great plug, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions or comments from committee members? And I think this program that you just outlined had a lot of, I'd say lessons learned from prior programs. We've been doing summer programming now, I feel like, for 10 years, and it's gotten better every single year. And kudos to separating the operations and logistics from the staff who are doing the teaching and leveraging all the partners in ways that make a lot of sense. I'm sure we'll learn stuff this year, but I think the programs have really grown to sort of meet our students and families' needs, and a lot of offerings in comparison to a lot of districts who don't have as much going on, for sure. All right, I'll keep us going. Thank you.
Can I just,
please.
3 last things and then my report is done. Just on summer school, I do want to thank Kate for her leadership in organizing this. It does feel like much more coordinated than what I've seen in other places I've been, and very thoughtful. 3 things just to, the program with LEAP is really an exciting one, and it's growing. They're expanding the mentorship program you talked about. We had a good meeting with Linda about it. And so, yeah, I think an important plug. Witchcraft is off limits this summer, so that's part of the coordination. Many of you know we're doing the floor at Witchcraft, so that's a school we got to take out of the rotation for summer programming. So I just want to note that. And the third thing I just say, this has nothing to do with summer programs, so we're shifting, is right before I came to the school committee, there was a really exciting event that happening at Saltonstall. We, through our partnership with the Bar Foundation, we're paired up with the New Teacher Project, TNTP, or the New Teacher Project, yeah. And they facilitated a focus group with parents about what our diversification efforts to get their input on what they're looking for from staff. It was a very diverse group of parents themselves. We served great food. We had babysitting. And we had about 12 to 15 parents there. And TNTP is collecting that as part of the recommendations around our efforts, how we improve our efforts to not only hire a more diverse staff, but retain a more diverse staff. We had 6 focus groups with students yesterday and today, and then staff are invited to participate in focus groups as well. And so really exciting that this work is really getting off the ground. It also coincides with Dr. Carmona's first day back was today in his new role in the system. I think he's drinking out of a fire hose in terms of a new role, but he has some time to transition with our current interim human resources director. But his charge is really around, on my evaluation, the first thing I want to, that I'm asking to be held accountable for is to move the needle on, on the diversification, our diversification efforts, and to ensure that our staff is more reflective of the students that we serve, and that we do a more, and Anna and I have talked about this, we do a better job of retaining our staff, our really talented staff of all backgrounds and experiences and so forth. So anyway, just wanted to put a plug into that work, and you'll see eventually the series of recommendations we'll share with the committee, so you know what's coming out of this work with the Bar Foundation.
Good stuff.
Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. I know that Awa is tied up this evening, so I don't think she's going to be here. So I'll move us on to old business, if there are any old business anybody has. Now I'll move us on to new business. We do have finance and operations. We have a couple of budget transfers that I want to take up. First one, I would entertain a motion to approve a budget transfer in the amount of $211,812. That's going from our collective bargaining reserve to our regular day pupil transportation. I'd entertain a motion at this time. Motion made by Ms. Campbell,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Cornell. Any further questions or comments? I know Ms. Delai is on Zoom. If there is a question, yep. Go ahead, Dr. Pangalo.
Not necessarily about this one specifically, but it looks like we are moving money. The first one was moving money into transportation, and then another was moving money out of transportation, or vice versa. And I'm just wondering why we were moving money in and out of transportation.
Yeah, I think they're separate line items, but I'll let Ms. Delai answer. Some of them are ELT, but go right ahead.
That is correct. This one is to regular day transportation. The next transfer that is before you, which actually Kate's team put together, is for the out of school time transportation. So they have a little bit of money left over, and I think she's trying to move it so that she can spend it on supplies.
Okay, so all transportation.
But the first transfer is to actually move funding into regular day transportation. That's our regular big yellow school bus operation.
Thank you.
Ms. Campbell?
I did actually want to ask about this one specifically. I was wondering, obviously, with our adjustment to how students are being transported, I'm wondering if someone can talk a little bit about, is this an unanticipated expense? Is this due to costs on NRT side increasing, or sort of what we're expecting and seeing here? And if this is to be expected for the future, if this is sort of a one-time out of the norm.
Yep. Mary, how about if I try this and then you can correct me if I'm wrong?
Go for it.
So because I thought we might get this a question about this. It's a good one. So we are running more buses than we anticipated. Some of it is the work related to the work that we're doing in policy with the adjustments to transportation policy. I think we had a lot more riders than we expected. We also did not adjust start times going into this school year like we planned to do to tier better. So we ended up running more buses than we anticipated, to the tune of, I think, 3 more, Mary. Is that right?
Exactly right. It's 3 more buses.
Okay. How'd I do?
Than what was in the budget, and each bus is about, that was perfect. Each bus is just under 90,000. So we were able to cover some of the additional, and this is what's left over.
We are hoping to run fewer buses next year based on the tiering, and then the guidance that is helping to get, that we'll be talking about later in this meeting.
Any other questions on this? Okay, got a motion that's been made and seconded. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. I took these out of order, guys. I think I took transfer request number 10. I had a transfer request number 9. So the other one was a smaller number, 16,311. And to Ms. Campbell's point, there are some out of school time pupil transportation and contracted services that are going into regular day instructional supplies. I'd entertain a motion at this time. Motion made by Ms. Manning, seconded by Mr. Cruz. Any further discussion or questions or comments on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, all those opposed, the ayes have it. Next item is our subcommittee reports. So we've got policy 3601 for a 3rd reading, and I'd entertain a motion from Ms. Cornell.
So
Motion made to approve. I'm just looking for the title of that. The 3600, right?
3601.
3601, thank you. For 3rd reading, this is on student transportation services. Motion's been made by Ms. Cornell. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cruz. Any further comments or questions? I know we went over some of the shifts and modifications to this at our last meeting, I believe. Anything further to add to that compliment?
No, we did not change or add anything. We didn't hear a lot of public feedback, so.
Okay, perfect. Got a motion that's been made and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Next up is policy for 1st reading, 6502. Ms. Cornell, I turn it over to you for a motion.
If it's okay, I would like to pass this off to Mr. Cruz, who's just going to give a little bit of background information.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Cornell. And just wanted to provide some context before we put this up for a motion. And so this is the policy that we've been discussing regarding the scholarships for our students that serve on the Student Advisory Council. I think the update that we wanted to provide for folks, we did put this up for our first reading, and concurrently, we did put the policy itself up to council just to check on the state law with respect to scholarships or stipends or any form of compensation for the student representative in particular. And so in your emails, you all should have received an update from the superintendent regarding the written language with respect to the council's opinion regarding whether or not the student representative themselves could receive the scholarship and what were the mechanics under which that person might be eligible for a scholarship. And so if folks have had a time to digest that particular opinion of council, I think that on our end, we would like to move forward with a first reading and then be able to take up during the policy subcommittee, making some adjustments to the policy to ensure that, again, we can keep in compliance with the state law and that the Student Advisory Council's student representative would have an opportunity to apply for a broader scholarship opportunity related to roles in student governance and student voice. And so, that was one of the things that had come up. So I'm not sure if folks had any questions about the council's opinion, but I do encourage folks. I know that I'll be reaching out for further clarification on the interpretation of the state law from our school committee attorney. But at this time, I do think, given that this has been marinating for some time, I do think that the policy itself could go up for first reading today, and the policy subcommittee could make adjustments to bring the policy into accordance with some of the recommendations that we received from council.
Would you mind sharing its recommendations? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with if this was from Colby. I must have missed it in my.
Not a problem. I will bring that up.
Okay, maybe while you're bringing that up, did somebody else have a question or a comment? Ms. Manning?
With all due respect to Mr. Cruz, I think when you refer to the we are in a position that we want to still bring it forward, I'm not in agreement with that. I think that I feel like we're in a position that we frequently, when we ask for advice from council, we then get that and discuss it, and in some cases it's some substantive change, which I think it is in this case. I think that it's beyond the point where we should do a first reading and move it forward and then bring it up in policy. I think this needs to go back based on council's advice that we need to go back to policy and rethink this before we bring it forward for a first reading. I think first and second and third readings in between them are for more detailed points or minor points compared to what I think this is to change this. So I'm just saying that I'm not in favor of the first reading.
Do you mind if I hear from Ms. Campbell before we tackle this? Okay, Ms. Campbell?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify a quick point while Mr. Cruz is pulling that up, that this is actually the second piece of council that was requested. The equity subcommittee had already sent this to council, and the thinking, if I recall correctly from my conversation with Ms. Brent, was that because it's for service on the advisory council, not for being the representative at different school committee meetings, that the way it was written, like I said, this has already gone to council, so I welcome the second opinion, and I think it's a point of clarification that this was something that was already vetted and clarified on when it sat in equity. And so as it was written, it didn't seem to be an issue. So I think it would be worth checking it again to get clarification around that.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Mr. Cruz?
So without going too, I think, deep into like deliberations, Ms. Campbell, I took a look at what council had provided, and it was only specific to the student representative. We did not receive the same written opinion that you had, and based on the way the language was structured, I think my interpretation of the state law probably mirrors your own. But I think in this particular case, I agree with you, but council's opinion here, I'd like to see the other one in writing as well, just because I think it would be important, as there might be different understanding of what council had actually laid out. So given that it seems like most folks hadn't had an opportunity to read what was provided only with respect to the role of the student representative, and folks might need still to see that other legal opinion in writing. You know, I still stand by what I said earlier, which is that I think we can put this up for a motion today, and we can review that other opinion that you were provided in writing so that we could, you know, continue to move forward with the process.
Ms. Campbell?
Yeah, I'm just covering. I do not have that in writing. The piece that we sent for additional clarification was that piece that I think you guys have all seen that was forwarded. This was a conversation that we had in regards to this, so I don't have I don't have two written ones to compare. It was a conversation when we first started to take this up. This was the initial point that we had raised to say like, hey, is this a path we should go down? I know that Dr. Drake and I have reached out to many different school districts who structure this similarly, so we're certainly not out in we're not certainly going rogue as compared to other districts across the state. So again, I do think it's worth saying like, hey, this is the original discussion that was had around this versus this is what we're reading through now to compare. So I'm not privy to the conversation that was had for you. I'm just saying it wasn't sent out for written referral back. It was just a conversation that was had, and that written piece was the additional follow-up question that I could email out.
Just so folks at home may know what we're talking about, this is referring to a proposal. I don't think we've actually gone through what the proposal is in recognition of service to the Salem School Committee, that this chair of the Student Advisory Council and the 4 officers listed in the council's bylaws would receive an annual scholarship, $1,000 for the chair, and the 4 officers would receive $500 each for a total of $3,000. This would be scholarships to students serving in those various roles. So just we're talking a lot about it, but thank you. All right, there it is for anyone who's following along. You have the actual policy up there. Perfect.
Well, can you put the policy up, Jensen?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
That's the
that's
legal
legal.
opinion.
Yeah, can you put the, thank you.
And so to be clear, I do think that this particular legal opinion is to the question as to whether or not the student representative themselves could receive a scholarship. But I don't think it was to the broader question of the mechanics of could they receive a scholarship if it was open to the other student advisory council members. So I think for some of the members that might still be, you know, pondering this particular policy, you know, having both of those pieces reviewed in writing is just super helpful. And I think it does put us in a position that, you know, if this was to be challenged, you know, we do have opinion of counsel in writing, which I think is just incredibly helpful to have. So that's just the flag on my end. And, you know, I think I do think at this time, you know, based on the context here, I don't want to belabor the conversation. I would like to make a motion for first reading on this policy.
Motion is
Yes.
A second.
motion's been made by Mr. Cruz, seconded by Ms. Cornell. Under discussion, Ms. Campbell, were you raising your hand
No,
to
I
make
was
the
just
motion?
trying to second, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Question, I'd love to, setting aside the legal back and forth that we just had relative to legal discussions that have been had to date, during the policy subcommittee or maybe during the equity subcommittee, did the topic of providing scholarships for students on the student advisory committee come up vis-a-vis other students that are active? I mean, I think we have thankfully, we have a lot of engaged students at our high school who are active and engaged in everything from sports to music to a range of programs. And I'm curious how the committee sort of took that up and why this group and not another group and where we landed there. If there's anyone who'd love to share, Ms. Campbell.
Yeah, happy to provide the background on this. So this came out of a proposal from the Student Advisory Council themselves. They felt a few things. First, that for some students, and this comes back to a conversation that has been had within the curriculum subcommittee as well, is that some students have access to paid internships within their high school experience, and that the opportunity to serve on Student Advisory Council can be in competition with those who have access to funds from other sources, either a job or an internship, and the desire to make sure that all students could have the opportunity to participate on Student Advisory Council, and kind of in recognition of the substantive contributions that they're making. So for example, I think the equity interns last year specifically, also, you know, making some substantive contributions to the district, and the feeling that the Student Advisory Council was doing similar work in advocating for student voice and student agency, and the desire to put this proposal forward. So the proposal came from the students in the first place. It was presented in, I believe, May of last year, so about a year ago. It came before equity. That's where equity subcommittee, we originally reviewed it. fine tune the language, got legal counsel, and passed it on to policy. How it ended up in policy was we felt that this is something that we would want reviewed on a more consistent basis rather than just a proposal out of equity, that it would kind of live in a location rather than just hanging out as something we do as practice, but not in policy. So that's sort of a quick run through without getting too deep.
No, I appreciate the history, and I think I'm familiar with some of it as well, and I appreciate the student voice that we're trying to ensure that we have, and that we're recognizing that takes time and effort. I'm just concerned that it's a bit of a slippery slope. I mean, what if the band students come to us and say, I'm putting all kinds of time, I'm taking on these actions. There's a number of student engagement opportunities within our school, and we don't compensate all of them. And so not certainly wanting to hold anybody back or put anybody in a position who may need to work or may need resources. Because I think we talked about this with Duncan, I want to say, right, before he graduated his senior year. So trying to value it, but trying to also square it away with, you know, where do we draw the line with respect to compensation, whether it's in the form of a scholarship or something else for interactions within your high school. So Ms. Campbell.
Sure, I can only share that answer from my own perspective. And so from my perspective, we are required by law to have a student advisory committee. We are required by law to have this function. And so sort of recognizing where it's fantastic that we have band and theater and student government and all of those things, but those are not something that the school committee is required to have. And so an acknowledgement of we as a school committee, one, we're required to have it, and two, we benefit immensely from their willingness to participate on search committees, on collecting students for staff feedback, for providing their own feedback, that we really do benefit enormously from that. I would honestly say it's not necessarily a slippery slope. I think if an argument can be made and well justified, I'm happy to hear that as well. These are, I mean, it's $3,000 and a $63 million budget. I'd be happy to hear other options. So to me, it doesn't feel like a slippery slope, but I mean, I guess in terms of why this aspect, it's the amount of benefit that the school committee receives from having students who are doing it, not just from a put it on the resume or a tick the box component, but from a, we are excited and thrilled to be able to inform it, and that the diversity of representation of having different types of students from different financial backgrounds, we benefit immensely from having that. You know, if we only had students who could afford to take the time off of work to do it, that we ourselves as a school committee, it would be to our detriment. That's my own perspective.
No, I appreciate that, and I value having that range. I'm just trying to square it away with, we could make that argument for other items as well. It's not certainly the amount of money at $3,000. It's really just where do we draw the line with respect to other student engagement opportunities that we also value. And I think it could be a slippery slope in that regard. Did I see other hands, Dr. Pangalo and then Ms. Manning?
Yeah, I mean, to the point about why it's a specific group, I do think that there is a consistent service of this group to the school committee, which is why I see this as different than other students who may participate in different opportunities, but more of a individual one-by-one type of thing. I think this is more of a long-term, and there's an intellectual contribution here as well as a strategy, like they're part of developing some strategies and that sort of thing. So I do see it personally as different, and that's why.
Thanks, Dr. Pangalo. Ms. Manning?
Yeah, I don't necessarily see it as a slippery slope. I see it as an icy one. I see, again, no, I have not seen a benefit or any even ideas that have taken fruition at the high school yet, and I've been asking to see that all year. Nobody has given me any information on any specific thing this group of students that have done. We still haven't seen any, we haven't met with any. We've seen her at a couple of the meetings, but then not at the meetings. I understand she's very busy. Not holding that against her at all, but I do have to disagree with the fact that that they're doing all these extremely beneficial things that other groups aren't doing, because I don't know any of them. To answer your question, we did discuss it at great length during policy, the issue of the other groups and this group and the differences and what's, you know, that whole relationship. You know, maybe they do give they may give a band scholarship, for example, I'm not sure, to be honest. But if they do, I've never heard of it being truly band president. It's open to band students, and maybe it's somebody, people can apply and get it. This may be a similar situation, which would be a lot, you know, if it were, it would be a lot more palatable than you get a scholarship because you were in this office of a student group. And it may be a state required student advisory group, but there's no state requirement. In fact, what I'm hearing from council is the opposite. There is a requirement that we not compensate. So I still maintain that this is something that yes, it's been bouncing around in committee for quite a while. It's because I don't feel we're getting anywhere. I don't feel I've gotten the information that I've asked for. And I do think it needs to go back to committee again. I don't see that we're ready to move on this at all. And I don't share the feelings of the other people in the committee yet. I may, if I ever had a meeting with them or they talked or presented or something, but I have no idea what this group does, none. So, and it's only hearsay from you guys to say they do great things, but I don't know, I couldn't name one.
Well, I think the interface with the student advisory committee in different years has been at different levels. I mean, pre-COVID, there were opportunities to, you know, better understand what they were doing. I think then there's an opportunity for us to try and restructure how they work, and they're setting, I know they were doing some table setting and things like that. And so I think this needs to be aspirational going forward. And I think there's a responsibility on the school committee as well to want to meet with the student advisory committee and try and figure out that structure that we just, this year, I would say it hasn't, given the level of disruption pre-COVID, the work they were doing to sort of get their feet under them, I would say it hasn't been as robust as we'd like. I don't want to devalue the work that they're doing and that they did even with Duncan. I mean, he shared a lot of information that I thought,
Absolutely.
you know, there's definitely meetings taking place and things like that.
And Duncan, absolutely, but Duncan, I at least had some, you know, some reports of what was going, you know, he would tell us what they were doing. They may be doing even more important work this year. I'm not trying to degrade the work they're doing. I'm simply saying, I don't know what it is. And I understand that it's probably a more complicated process that we're getting into as time goes by if we're trying to expand the role of it. But I just don't see that we're in the position yet of paying them for it because I don't know what it is.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz?
So I think at this point, the only thing that I'll add to the conversation is that we do have a meeting scheduled for the 30th, in which we're going to be engaging directly with the students. And no, I think that to the mayor's point, this is aspirational about the relationship moving forward. And I think we have to take into context the full experience that we've had with reforming the Student Advisory Council dating back to 2019. So I do think you know, this is about moving forward, less so about this particular piece. And the only other thing that I would raise is, you know, I don't think that this meeting is the right way to kind of evaluate the Student Advisory Council. I think we'll do that moving forward with some of our conversations with them. And we are supposed to be meeting with the Student Advisory Council on a monthly basis. But I do think that the context here is that we haven't had that opportunity because of the pandemic. And I think that that is something that the students certainly want, and they want that level of coordination. I've had conversations with the superintendent about how do we better support. The students had a retreat back in February, and the facilitator had some pretty intensive feedback. We'll be sure to share that out. And then additionally, I think to the request that Ms. Manning made, if you haven't received particular documents, we'll be sure to get that. But I do want to move to the previous question and call for a roll call vote.
Yeah, we do have a motion that's been made to adopt this. I guess I just want to say I will vote to advance this evening. I definitely have a fair amount of questions still about, well, I guess we need to understand the legality of it. I look forward to getting that information. Sounds like other places are doing it, so that sounds like it's something that could be sorted out. But for me, I want to understand, what are we really trying to achieve with respect to this compensation for this particular group, given the concerns I might find if there are a whole lot of other students who are active and engaged in other ways, and what that might bring to us. I'm still troubled by how we might look at that. So I'm happy to advance this tonight. It's first passage. I just want to be clear. I'm still not in the total yes category yet on this one and have some concerns. Any other thoughts or comments? I know we've moved this forward, and there's been a request for a roll call. All those in favor of first passage for the Student Advisory Committee policy proposal? And let me call the roll. Sorry, guys. agenda that has everybody's names on it. All those in favor? Dr. Pangalo. Ms. Campbell.
Yeah.
Ms. Cornell.
Yes.
Ms. Manning.
No.
Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
Mayor Driscoll, yes. The matter carries 6-1. We'll move ahead to second passage, but it sounds like 5-1? 5-1, sorry, thank you. I was thinking Mr. Fleming's here. Thanks for the correction on that. 5-1. I should have been paying more attention to our early childhood proposal earlier. Yeah, exactly. Where's my tally? What feet do I have? All right, first approval of this committee, this policy moves forward. First reading, I should say. More to come for sure on this level of information. And I'm going to get us back on our agenda. Thank you. I am super discombobulated. Moving on with school committee concerns and resolutions. Yeah, Mr. Cruz.
For school committee.
Yes, school committee concerns and resolutions.
Thank you. And so I think this is more related to the conversations that we've been having over the last week with respect to the budget. I have a growing concern regarding where we're at with our Student Opportunity Act dollars. And one of the things that this body has done historically in the past is we have taken positions on legislation and on ballot initiatives. And so one of the current ballot initiatives that is pending before the people of the Commonwealth is the Fair Share Amendment, which would provide a higher tax rate on some of the wealthiest residents in the Commonwealth. And the two explicit purposes for the funding would be around education funding and in addition to transportation funding. I had a brief conversation with Ms. Berman, who in the past was gracious enough to work with the committee on developing a resolution around education funding when the state was taking it up, and that ultimately became the Student Opportunity Act. So at this time, I'm not going to make the proposal around a resolution. I did reach out to the North Shore Labor Council, and they have a sample resolution that school committees or city councils can adopt. And so what I'd love to do is to be able to contextualize that resolution and to bring it forth at the next meeting. But I wanted to give everybody a heads up that I do think it would be important for us as a committee, given the context of the conversations that we've had over the last couple of weeks, to take a position on this particular ballot initiative to signal the importance of or the need for these additional resources, especially as we're having conversations around what we can and can't fund, sustainability of programs like early education in our community. So I will forward along the sample that I was provided by the North Shore Labor Council. I will also be sure to send that to Ms. Berman. And then I hope that perhaps another member and Ms. Berman and I can probably sit down and just contextualize this for Salem so that it makes sense for all of us. And I'd love to put it up for the next meeting.
Great, thank you, Mr. Cruz. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Other school committee concerns or resolutions? I do want to note one thing on our consent agenda. We had an approval of the New Liberty Innovation School field trip to Salem, New Hampshire. We typically sometimes, if it's an out of state field trip, pull that out. We approved it as the consent agenda, so it's approved. But I just wanted to make note of it in case anybody had any questions or concerns. Okay, seeing none. Is that a handout?
No, separate. It is a handout
That's
for
right.
another item.
Okay,
I
go ahead.
just a quick note. I do want to just recognize some very good news that Carleton Innovation School is being is a finalist for the Posen Award, which is a very significant prize. It's an annual competition that recognizes Greater Boston schools with innovative models and practices that boost student achievement. And they are a finalist with the school from Boston. And there is, I think I sent to all committee members, you can register. It's a virtual event for Monday at 4 o'clock. And I hope some of us can be in attendance because it is, it speaks to the great work that's happening at Carleton. Hopefully they win. I think it comes with some cash prizes for the school. And so we'll find out Monday evening.
Ms. Campbell?
I believe, Dr. Schreck, that you had mentioned, I don't want to misquote you, but I think you said that they were either one of the few or one of the first public schools, like that it's a little more rare for a public school to receive this honor. And so I just wanted to get the direct quote from you and also just really flag that that's really great news and something to really celebrate to have such amazing work happening happening within our own public schools.
Exactly. It was initially focused on Commonwealth charter schools, but the prize now includes what they would call pioneering district schools. And that's, I think it's great, to your point, that we do have, we're lucky in this state and certainly in Salem to have schools with innovative models. And, I'm glad they're getting the recognition they deserve. So yeah, please join in and hopefully we can celebrate a win on Monday.
I'm sorry, Dr. Pangal?
Yeah, I just had I wanted to acknowledge what Salem Public Schools was doing for one of our sister institutions here in Salem State, that lost the facility of Meyer Hall, where I'm teaching. That's where I do a lot of my work. And of course, it is at a commission for the next few weeks. And the public schools were generous enough to open up the high school labs so that they could continue doing their labs in person, finish off the semester. So I think it's great to see the collaboration between Salem State and Salem Public Schools, and I hope that continues.
Thank you, Dr. Pingal. Mr. Cruz?
I actually had a question for Dr. Zarek, because I didn't see this on my calendar, but I thought it would be a great opportunity for any committee members that might be interested. I was invited to attend the CBTE advisory board meeting. I believe it's this week. Dr. Zarek, what's the date on that?
It was actually this past Thursday.
Oh.
I did invite, I said, yeah, they had a great, I should have mentioned something. It was, I should have mentioned like in the aftermath, it was a great turnout, a lot of positive buzz. And it was Thursday evening. And it was the same time as the mayor's state of the city. So I split time between those two events.
And curious about kind of some of the reflections from that event. Was there anything that came up in particular from some of the parents on the advisory board, or?
There's just a lot of good energy there. I came toward the end of the event. I think it keeps on adding more and more people. I love seeing more of our alumni coming back and supporting the shops. We have some excellent new instructors in a lot of those areas. I think they just want to see more support, resources. I know we're trying to get more resources for the CTE programs, and the demand is definitely there. And I have to commend Mr. Souza and Mr. Burns for their work, and just the energy was palpable. And I know I was in the electrical shop for a while, and people were leaving there shaking their heads in a good way. Like, wow, we were here earlier this year. It didn't look like this. And to see, to see the progress that's been made. And I know some of you were on that walk a couple of weeks ago. I got to give a lot of credit to where it's due there, that the team there is working hard. And we're CT's on the map in Salem Public Schools.
Thank you.
Kate Carboni, Ms. Carboni?
So I just want to extend an invitation to committee members for the Student Voice Project. This is the partnership that we have with the Equity Imperative. And so our 2 middle schools and our 3 high schools all have had student teams that have been working with teacher mentors around issues of interest to them. And so students will be sharing their recommendations for school-wide change at this based on their student-led research. So this is Student Voice Project Summit will be held May 17th from 6 to 7:30 here at Collins Middle School in the auditorium. And we'll be sending out the formal invitations to you all and to families for that event. So I just wanted you to mark your calendars.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I have a couple more items to add to our, school committee concerns or resolutions. One is this past week, Marta Garcia, our Massachusetts Teacher of the Year, spent time with President Biden, right? Hanging out.
Right
with
next to Jill Biden.
Right next to Jill Biden as well, hanging out. I think it was a really proud moment for all of us who know and value Marta, and certainly recognition for Salem Public Schools, and following along on the journey on social media. It was really special to see her in some terrific places. And you updated us on Mr. Brito here, who's going to be a Red Sox, our teacher here at Collins Middle School, who is going to be recognized as a most valuable educator during the Red Sox pregame ceremony later this week. So certainly a lot of opportunities to recognize SPS staff. And I'm really struck by the number of our small businesses who are contributing to Teacher Appreciation Week as well. Lots of opportunities within the community with strong partnerships to say thank you in ways that are small and large for the work that folks are doing I didn't see too many free beer opportunities here, but there was a lot of free coffee, so, or discount coffee, I should say, so. And ice cream, coffee and ice cream, so there's that. Any other committee concerns or resolutions? If there are not any, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. Manning. All those in favor, all those opposed, the ayes have it. Okay. It's 11 o'clock. That's-